Hello, and welcome to the Storied Human. I'm Lynn Thompson, and I'm really lucky today to have as my guest Annemarie, a really good friend that I met through the podcast class that I took. I think I've mentioned it before on our podcast. So we had been talking about regret and decided it would make a great discussion. Now, Annemarie has a really interesting history. She has a lot of business background. She grew up in Germany as part of a family business and learned how it worked from an early age. She had her own insurance agency at one point. She owned 6 spas and she had 28 employees, and she loved the experience. Now she runs health and wellness as well as regular tours, specializing in Southern California. And she is trilingual. She speaks German, French, and English. So she works with international clients too. So we spoke earlier and realized we had similar thoughts about regret and decided it would make a great discussion. Right on my wavelength, Annemarie. Take it away.
Well, thank you so much. I am so excited about our discussion here. And we met through podcasting, which is such a miracle. Such a miracle. Lifelong friends created by a common interest. And I love it. And when you mentioned regrets, of course, with a wonderful song, Je ne regrette rien. I just loved it. And that tickled so much my brain because we can sing about it, we can talk about it, we can tell ourselves not to have regrets. But all of that doesn't change that we live with regrets. And one of the horrible things about regret is you cannot have hope and regrets. Regrets wipe hope off because it's such a hopeless state of mind that totally immobilizes us when we eat our way down that rabbit hole and relive a situation that we have done, neglected to do, or later thought, wow, that would have been a great idea. And I think, of course, always about the poem, The Road Less Traveled.
Yes.
So what would have happened in all this waste of time? So when we go in this freeze where we tell our own story, and it's not a goal, it is literally going backwards. It's a regression. And so I am fascinated by your workshop you spoke of because your workshop I feel is so valuable, is so important because I am thinking, what if solving how we deal with regrets and once and for all find a formula that works for each of us? I am sure there is no standard formula or stamp. If there was, then the little sparrow in Paris just singing it would have taken it all away. But you can't. You see, every person has to find their way, and it has to be talked about. It has to be supported. And I think that support is what helps. However, I am thinking, what if dealing with the regret and solving it is the key to well-being? What if it is that simple? We all look for the billion-dollar answer. What if it was that simple that we could let go of it, deal with it, like Susie may have to journal about it.
Right.
Nancy may have to talk until the cows come home about it, okay? And finally she gets tired of talking about it and says, you know what, I'm good. I'm sick and tired. Or something one of our fellow podcasters, Margot, said, when you're sick and tired of your own behavior, you actually can heal and let go.
That's a really cool way to say it. Yeah, and I feel like it's another way that we focus on the past too much. And I know I do that. I focus on the past. And regret is part of that.
Yes. And that is so important. And that, again, that going somewhere in our mind and acting like physically, like everything is fine, but we are not experiencing today. And I don't care how many Eckhart Tolle's we listen to, or Chopra's or Oprah's or whatever. We have to help each other. And maybe that is the answer. And it intrigues me beyond measure, because if we can take this energy we put into these regretful situations that we cannot change, folks. If we could change it, Lord, the world would have peace, everybody would have food, everything would be fine. It is just that we need to do something today, not tomorrow. We have to today be free from this draining experience.
It's so true. I think it really hobbles people. It's like a lot of extra baggage that you're pulling behind you. And I also think, like I said to you before we started recording, I think it has a lot to do with forgiveness, forgiving yourself, finding a way to forgive yourself, because after all, we all make mistakes, and feeling bad about it forever doesn't help anybody. And we're all human. And I always ask, like, what would you do if a friend did what you did? You would be kind to the friend. You would say, we all make mistakes. You have to forgive yourself and move on. So we need to take our own best advice.
Yes. Yes. And that is, again, where I feel your workshop is such a positive step forward.
Thank you. I hope so.
It is action. And action doesn't allow us to drool over the past or flail ourselves endlessly over what we have done, haven't done, should have done. We are missing the boat while we worry about the ship we did not climb aboard.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's such a good way to put it. I did a little bit of reading before I did the workshop, and one of the things I read was really interesting. They said, it's not like regret has no use whatsoever. To regret something is to be a conscientious person who feels guilty when they don't do the right thing. So a little regret is great. You realize you did something wrong, but then to hold on to it, that's just stupid, right? I know that I've held on to things way too long, and I just see what a waste of time it is.
And two, my oldest sister would say the Latin word mea culpa.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, forgive me.
Yeah.
So that was her way of dealing with regret. Mea culpa. And when she said it, I thought, well, that's kind of chicken poop to just say mea culpa, and you just kind of, that really wasn't very nice of you. And she was whistling Dixie and going on. So, but that was her way of dealing with matters. And what if it was that simple? What if it was a key word to say to remind us?
I like that. Yeah.
Snap us back to reality.
To redirect. Yeah. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe it is.
So, yeah. So I feel with your workshop, it is such a godsend to help people.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to try to get it out sometime in August and have, have a little intro, like you guys and anybody who wants to attend it for free. It'll be great. And I'll get some feedback for how I feel it went. But it's really selfish. I was finding myself revisiting my regrets too much. And so, like all workshops, I think it comes out of trying to help yourself. Hopefully, as you're helping yourself, you're helping others.
I love that. I love that, because I just find another thing is we have to have enthusiasm about this. Yes. So if we are sitting here, and I thought about that these last few days, because I've asked people, how do you feel about regret? And everybody has a different view about it. It's very
interesting. Yeah.
Really. And I feel we need to have a little enthusiasm about it and not look at that and go like, well, now I have to look at my regrets and how boring and how terrible, and I'm trying so hard, and why do I have to even think about it? We need to look at the freedom. We need to look at the joy to once and for all put this to rest. Just imagine, it's like growing wings. We can fly. We don't have to go ahead and feel bad anymore. We can have joy, because you cannot have a big fat regret and experience that deep inner joy. And I love the French joie de vivre.
Oh, I love that too.
Grab it
Yeah.
with both hands and have some joy. And there's no reason you have joy. There's no big money coming your way. There is no helicopter coming to give you a ride. You happen to enjoy to be alive. That joy, that big smile, and that you can't have when you have regrets. And so I find we need to take ourselves lighter and laugh about this and tell each other that it's okay. So what? You revisited your regrets today. It's almost like, a program where we give each other a chip that we made it a whole day without falling down. We made it a week. We made it a month. It's going to be a 12-step program. And when we know how to do it, we can give it to other people.
Yes, it's not overnight. That's a really good point. And I keep thinking it's like that quotation that they say, I guess Buddha said, when you're focused on the past, that's depression, but it's also regret. And when you're focused on the future, that's anxiety and worry. So what you're talking about is the joy of being right here, right now, being present, and not being caught up in the past, and not being too focused on the future. That's like a real challenge for a lot of us. I tend to live a lot in the past. I don't let it go very easily. I've been really working on it. I've been trying really hard, because my tendency is to look backwards. And I don't want to be like that anymore. So that's part of why I started the workshop.
That is fantastic. And two, when we live with the regret, we are scared. We have fear of making a decision. So we go through this again anew. So I've adapted something when people say, well, aren't you afraid to make this decision? And I said, well, you can't scare me. I raised 3 sons. I am still alive. I have changed locations like mad. I changed professions. I haven't really ever changed a profession. I just add to it.
Right.
And just somehow see how this, like, who is it? Mary Oliver, the poet.
Oh, I love her.
This beautiful picture where the little girl is surrounded by all kinds of blue greenish colors, and it says, what will you do with this crazy life of yours?
I love that.
That is just so phenomenal. And maybe it's the simple little sayings that will help us, like, if you were supposed to be in one place for the rest of your life, instead of feet, you would have roots. We are supposed to move. We're supposed to go. And I think
grow. Yep.
And grow as we go, and say, well, que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. Here I am. And how much stuff do we need? And how much joy can we spread? And that is where I find our journey of podcasting, our getting together, is so life enriching. And I'm so grateful that I met you, and we are walking this journey together.
Same here. I cannot believe the quality of you and the other people that we meet with. It feels like I've known you all forever. It feels like I can tell you whatever I want to say, and it's received as if we've known each other forever. There's just this, we're all at this very similar journey. We're all at the same, we have the same mindset. We're all dedicated to moving forward. And I love that, like you're making a really good point. We're not here to, I love that quotation about the boats. It said, boats are safe in a harbor, but that's not what boats are made for. We're not made to sit around. We're made to move and to grow and to move through our life and move forward. Anything else is sort of stagnation, a
Well,
really good point.
indeed. And I was
Hello, this is Lynn Thompson here. We lost our internet for a little bit, and I wanted to make sure that when the conversation picks up again, that you know that Annemarie is talking about houses she's seen in Michigan that were designed by the famous architect Frank Lloyd Wright. That's who we're talking about when she resumes. Thanks.
seen different architectural homes by, built by Wright in Lansing, Michigan. Kalamazoo has a couple. San Diego has a few. They're all over. However, the uniqueness is that 1/3 of his work he accomplished. Now take a third, okay? Between the age of 80 and 92, he accomplished 1/3 of his entire life successes.
I love that. I always use the painter Grandma Moses as an example. She didn't even start painting, I think, till she was in her late 70s. She painted these beautiful pictures for the next 2 decades. I think she died in her 90s. Well, actually, I read a study that said the most prolific group of people. We just don't think about senior people in the right way, because by the time you have accomplished all those experiences, by the time you've garnered all that wisdom, you know, people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s are very productive. They really are. And if you think of the leaders of the world who are still in office in their 70s and 80s, and
Yes.
I don't know, I think we have to reevaluate that, right? Like, that's a wonderful I didn't know that about Frank Lloyd Wright. That's wonderful.
Well, and that's the amazing part, because an architect is a very, very vital, a very active role you play. And the creativity, I also did not know that he created two groups of colors. And like I said, this has nothing to do with regret, and yet all to do with regret. Because if he would have sat in a dark room, all depressed, being regretful, he could not have accomplished.
And we wouldn't have like a third of his work. Right.
No. And he even accomplished to create two sets of colors.
That's
One
amazing.
is the more muted, like for example, the red is a burgundy, like he calls it Cherokee. It's a rusty red, and greens and purples and whatever. The other colors are vibrant. And I had no idea. The lobby of my very first day spa, I hunted the world over to find that color by a certain company, and finally found it in a professional paint store. And believe it or not, it is his brilliant red. I think it's called Lollipop. And that is the red I painted my lobby, and then put an Italian taupe color, soft leather, corner piece couch in there.
Lovely.
So I didn't even know that until a couple of days ago. I saw his palette of colors and I went like, whoa. So if he would have had a lot of regrets, he couldn't have done all of that.
Yeah. And I think you're making such a good point. Regrets can gum up the works. It can freeze people. It can stop them if they're too bad. And
yes.
Also, there's another thing, and I wasn't meaning to talk about this, but especially me growing up, being a little older, our mothers were not, I had my mother didn't get her education until later. A lot of mothers were at home. There were a lot of frustrated young mothers who had babies really soon. And so there was a lot of bitterness. By the time they got older, they were really bitter. And who could blame them? I mean, they didn't, they followed the rules, but they didn't use their talent. Some of them did. Some of them always find a way to break out. My mother did. She became a counselor and she went back to school, and it was really hard. And that's like amazing to me. But a lot of mothers, I noticed, older people got bitter for being sold maybe a bill of goods about how to live, and not being taught how to, like you're saying, not being taught how to be vital, how to be joyful, how to move forward. So there's bitterness and regret. I think they kind of go together sometimes.
Yes, and it's heartbreaking. And they felt also a sadness, and
Yes.
they didn't have choices. They
Yes.
thought they had no choices.
Right. Oh, that's so crucial. Yes. Only the bravest and craziest of the women actually lived different lives. Most women, in the 50s and 60s, they lived the way they were supposed to.
Well, and that is the most unusual people. Like yesterday was the pilot that was lost, Amelia Earhart's birthday yesterday. And when you look at her life and look at her struggles and how she still tried to be a wife to a husband who she really was mismatched with by the sounds of it. And
Yes.
so when you look at that, or I am thinking of the creator of the Steifbär. And that is one of my favorite
I saw
stories.
you posted that on Facebook. I love that.
Yes, yes, because her story is so unique. Not only did she have polio and she couldn't walk and she had all the trouble in the world to sew, but her little brother talked her into putting the button in the bear's ear. So that is the Steifbär has a button in the ear, Knopf im Ohr. And he went to New York to the toy market, to the World Fair, and he sold all these bears. And do you know another brother of hers came to Michigan and had a factory in Chelsea, Michigan, and I
Wow.
was there. And unfortunately, they closed 5 years ago. They shut the factory down, but they were running with Germany together. So imagine this woman in a time where nobody had even a wheelchair. She created this. And I took my granddaughters to the Steif factory in Germany. It's like a Willy Wonka factory. It
I
is
love it.
gorgeous. It is beautiful.
So
And it,
people set these great examples that give us inspiration. I mean, she sounds so inspiring. I'm kind of obsessed with Beatrix Potter, the author of the Peter Rabbit books. The more I learned about her, the more I fell in love with her. Now, she came from a privileged family. They did have money, but what she did with her life, like she did something really different. Like she didn't get married right away. And she did these illustrations. She was obsessed with nature. She did these beautiful illustrations. And she ended up, and nobody thought it would become anything. And she ended up selling a book, and everyone went crazy for it. And she just, what I really love is she ended up with the money she made from the books, she bought a huge bunch of acres, like thousands of acres in the Lake District, so that she could protect it forever. And I just thought, what a lovely life. She was creative. She shared this wonderful, it's very similar, the bears are wonderful. I've seen them. They're very special. And I think to share something for children that everyone loves, and then in her later life to save the land. I mean, that those acres are still under protection. Nobody can build on them, and it's absolutely beautiful. They've preserved her farm. I just think some people, in spite of how, the time that they're born into, are very inspiring, and we can take a lot of inspiration from them.
and that's it, to find passion. And what you are talking about is passion in doing what you want to do,
Yes.
is passion in giving forward, is passion to preserve for mankind. And it is amazing. Someone today thanked me for showing her Kate Session Park in Pacific Beach, San Diego. A lot of the local people don't know it exists.
I
And
love that.
Session came to San Diego 1907, where there were no trees, and she's the mother of the trees of Balboa Park. And
That's so
as a
cool.
counterpart, she requested the 65 acres overlooking the ocean, which is Kate Session Park. And it is phenomenal. And these were all local people yesterday that experienced it, because me, little foreigner, found that out and walked it with my dogs every night. And I love it. It's safe. It's beautiful. It overlooks the ocean. And people go like, how can this exist in the city? Well, she kept it, and it's a preserver.
It was her gift. Yeah.
Yes,
So
what a gift.
I'm very intrigued that you followed your passion, that you always knew to do that, because we're not necessarily taught that. We're taught to be safe and follow the, the regular path for women. But you seem to have always gotten excited about stuff and followed that. Why do you think that is?
Well, I always swim against the stream. I like the challenge.
Aha.
I don't settle. I don't know why. I truly don't. I also do fall into the rabbit hole of regrets. Why didn't I just stay at that house? And wasn't I? And look how wonderful it all was. Why did I go and stick my neck back out there? There is something that drives me, that I'm not done exploring. Yes. I'm not done, building my next whatever it is. And I think looking at that with the thought, as we started with regret, I would like to almost say as a conclusion, we need to have more than solving how to deal with our regret. We need to find a way to make it bigger than us, that we learn from it, and we can give something to the rest of the world by us having found a way to deal with this, and by giving it away, because that is such a powerful message, that it is in giving that you will receive, and it's in loving that you are loved. And to me, that is the answer. Because
I think you're so right. They say when you feel low, when you feel sad, the best thing you can do is volunteer your time or do something for someone else. That is so transformative.
Yes, yes. And so the entire regret, I believe we can teach others as we learn, as we do this workshop, and as we, all of us together, can enjoy and do things that are bigger than us. This is not about us, little old me. How can I be happy? If I do something and I reach out and I change other people's lives, I mean, that's just phenomenal.
I'm hearing something really incredible. I'm hearing like, let's not just deal with our regrets. Let's learn from them and share something wonderful that we learned. Then they're not a waste then. They're not a waste at all. Yeah, no. You've really made me look at it a little differently. I like that. I'm so glad we had this time. I could talk to you all night.
I know. So, everybody listening, you have to come and participate on the workshop, because we need your feedback. We need your opinion. We need to know, what are your brilliant ideas, how we can make this a better, happier, joyful life.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much. I'll include it in the show notes, and I'll also include where you can find Annemarie, so we can, you can contact her, check out her social media or her website. And until then, I'll see you guys on the next episode of The Storied Human, and I'll let you know the date for the regret workshop as soon as we decide. Thanks again, Annemarie. It was so good talking to you.
Thank you.